Good evening, everybody, and hello and welcome to this demo session on the Android development program, which is powered by Edureka. Well, my name is Mohit, and I will be your instructor for this session. Now, to start off with this class, I had asked a simple question. Does anybody know this man? Well, this guy is Andy Rubin. He is the co-founder of Android, and he is the mastermind, as Navinder says. He started everything. Now, as per the poll and statistics reports, over 850,000 Android devices are being activated every day. Now, no wonder why Android is the fastest growing platform in the complete industry, right? Now, let us start talking about Android a little, right? The Android ecosystem. Now, before learning any technology or any platform, it's very important to understand what is the ecosystem, what are the different entities that are actually surrounding the particular platform or the technology. When you talk about Android, the Android ecosystem includes number one, the consumers. Now, consumers are the folks that buy these Android devices, use applications, right? People like us who buy the devices and use the applications. Now, we've also got Google. Google, as we know, is the owner of Android, right? And distributes Android as an open source, which is free to all of everybody to use. Now, we've also got the OEMs. Now, these are the original equipment manufacturers. OEMs are the companies like Samsung, HTC, LG, Sony who manufacture their own devices and use Android as a software platform for their devices. Now, the biggest contributor to this complete ecosystem are the application development houses. Now, these are the companies that are actually on a big scale working on Android, making many applications, publishing on the Play Store, and availing them to the consumers to use. Right? These are the companies that are hiring on a big scale. These are the companies which give opportunities to most of the developers and testers, and also to service level companies. Right? Now, apart from this, we've also got the freelancers. Now, when you talk about Android, freelancers also have immense opportunities to work over and to look forward for. You can go to any portal, you can talk about Odesk, you can talk about Guru and all. In all the portals, you'll always find never less than 1,000 opportunities or projects seeking Android application developers or testers. Now, the scope is increasing day by day and getting immense all the time. Right? Now, this is what the Android ecosystem is. Is everybody clear with what is the Android ecosystem? Now, I want all of you to be very interactive in the class, right? So that I could figure out if you've actually understood what is being talked about, right? So, are we all clear with the Android ecosystem? Okay, that's great. Looking down at so many confirmations coming in is a good feeling as well. Anyways, let us move ahead. And let us talk about the app monetization. Now, most of you would have heard that applications earn revenues. If you have a look at this screenshot over here, this is a screenshot from a simple gaming application on Android which is called Angry Birds. I think most of us have played it already, right? Now, the developers of this Angry Birds game have earned millions of dollars as a revenue to the game by posting these small advertisements, mobile advertisements on the screens of their application, right? This is a very small thing if you look over it, but then still the revenue scope, the revenue generation scope rather, is immense and endless, right? Small application which is available for free is earning millions of dollars. Isn't this amazing? The process of earning revenues out of your Android applications, irrespective of the fact whether your applications are free, they are trial, or their premium set of applications, is called app monetization. Now, in your upcoming classes, you've got a detailed session on the Google Play Store and the app monetization, wherein you'll come to know a lot about the Play Store, the types of applications, how do we publish them, how do we monetize our applications, how can we earn revenues out of them. All right. Is everybody clear with the concept of monetization of applications? Is everybody clear with this? What is the scope of monetization? Everybody's clear with this? That's great. Now, I want all of you to have a very quick look at some questions. I will read them out for you. Number one is, what are the various building blocks of an Android application? Number two, what is the life cycle of an Android application? Number three, how does a mobile application handle hardware events? Number four, how does an application run background jobs like network downloads, music player, etc.? Number five, how do multiple applications access shared resources such as address book, photo gallery, etc.? Now, you need not to wonder about the answers of these questions already. I know most of you would not have the answers to these questions. How many of you have the answers to these questions already? Can you quickly post it on the chat window? How many of you have the answers for these questions already? Do you know the answers to these questions? Well, I see a lot of no's coming in, which is actually expected. Now, not to worry, just let us not wonder about the answers at the moment. Let us move ahead. And what we can promise out of this class, that after this class, you're definitely going to have the answer to all of these questions. This is the least you can expect out of this class. All right. So let's move ahead and let us talk about what is Android, right? Now, most of us use Android devices, right? Ashik KH is saying, let me get the download of this session. Well, Ashish, you don't have to request for it. Once the class is over, every class is recorded and sent to you. Don't worry, you'll have this class in your email inbox post the class is over. Okay. Anyways, let us talk about Android. What is Android? Now, can anybody from the class tell me what is Android? In our poll, we came to know 75% of the people are already using Android devices. So I want to know, what is Android? Can anybody tell me what is Android from the class? Okay, Ishan is saying Android is a mobile operating system. Naminder saying it is an environment. Now, with the answers that I'm getting at the moment, I can realize that everybody has a different perception towards Android. Most of the people think that it is a mobile operating system. Some have written it is a free mobile operating system. Okay, let us try to figure out what is Android exactly. Well, when you talk about Android, Android is an open software platform. When I say it is an open software platform, I must include that it is an open software platform for mobile application development, right? Now, for all of you to understand it very well, Android is not just the operating system or not just the applications you use. Android is a complete stack. You must have heard about a stack, right? Android is a complete stack which includes the operating system, the middlewares, and the application. Now, the operating system of Android is powered by Linux, right? And the application development in Android is done using the Java language. So we will be using the Java language, the concepts of Java to code applications in Android, right? Now, Rana Pankaj is asking me, what is a stack? Well, Rana, you must have heard about data structures. We've got a last in first out structure layout, right? So that is called a stack, right? One thing layered over the other, right? Now, this is what Android exactly is. Is everybody now clear about what is Android? Does everybody have an answer about what is Android now? Right? I hope now most of you are not wondering about what is Android, right? That is great. Now, Saranya is also, also knows now what Android exactly is, confirms that he or she knows. But anyways, let us move ahead. Now, when we have talked about what is Android, let's see what has been the evolution of Android in the market as of now. Right? We talk a lot about Android. Let's see what has been the evolution. The first ever Android version that was published officially, released officially, was the Cupcake version, which was Android 1.5. Then came the Donut 1.6, then the Eclair. Now the interesting part is that you can all observe that there is a certain nomenclature pattern. C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. These are all alphabetically ordered starting from C. right? This honeycomb version over here was targeted towards the tablet application development. Now the most talked about version ever has been the ICS, ice cream sandwich version. This was the most talked about version because this was the first ever Android version which was actually optimized towards both tablet and mobile application development. Now the current version is the Jelly Bean version 4.1, 4.2. Now what's next? Can anybody tell me which is the upcoming Android version? Anybody has a clue? Well, don't start Googling it anyways. So I'll tell you one thing that we know, that it has to start with a K, right? Seeing the nomenclature pattern. Well, the upcoming Android version is called the Key Lime Pie. I have posted it on the chat window as well for all of you to refer. The upcoming Android version is the Key Lime Pie version, right? Is everybody clear about it now? Which is the upcoming Android version? Now let's talk generally about Android as well. Let us try to polish our GK skills in Android. Now can anybody tell me which was the first Android powered device that was launched in the market? Was it the HTC Hero, the HTC G1 or the Motorola Droid? Just select the desired answer on the screen, everybody. What do you think was the first Android powered device that was launched in the market? Can everybody vote in quickly? Can I have the votes from everybody quickly? Alright, for the poll results that I have up till now, say 25% of the people think it is an HTC Hero, 25 are thinking it is the HTC G1, and 50% people have voted for the Motorola Droid. Well, unfortunately, the mass is wrong over here. The correct answer, the first ever Android powered device that was launched in the market was the HTC G1. HTC G1 was the first ever Android powered device and it operated on the Android 1.5 cupcake version, right? Is everybody now clear about it? Everybody is clear about this? We are going to remember the first Android powered device, right? And we are also going to remember which is the upcoming Android version, isn't it? Everybody is clear about this, right? That's great. Let's move ahead and let us talk about the main building blocks of Android. Now this is the most important part because now we are going to talk about the components behind any and every Android application, right? Now I hope for the people who have just joined in, I want to remind you that you can use the chat window to ask whatever questions, whatever doubts that come across your mind, right? I have an eye on the chat window, right? Whenever you post in a question, I'll try to answer it and I'll try to answer all of them. Anyways, so let's talk about the main building blocks of Android, everyone. Now the cluster says we've got the activities, the intents, the services, the content providers, and the broadcast receivers, right? Now, is anybody having any clue about these already in the class? Anybody knows about them already? Okay, I can see a lot of no's already. Okay, not to worry. Let's move ahead. Let's talk about these one by one. And let us start with what is an activity, right? Now I have written it is typically a screen, but since I know nothing, I would not even know what is a screen. This is my Facebook login screen, isn't it? A simple login screen. It has a colored background. It has two input boxes, a Facebook logo and a button, right? Now I put in my credentials over here. I press the login button. What happens? I'm taken to a new screen, right? Which is my newsfeed screen. Now if I click over here, I'll go to some other screen. If I click over here, I will go to some other screen. This means my application is made up of different screens, different user interfaces, or UI is what you call it generally. All these screens individually are called activities, right? Every screen, this is a login activity, this is a newsfeed activity. Had I clicked over here, I could have gone to a notification activity, right? Every screen is called an activity, and every activity in an application also has a life cycle of its own. Let us try to discuss what is the life cycle of an activity, right? Now these are the stages that any activity life cycle would consist of. Let's try to talk about them one by one. Well, a starting state is 1, when the activity has just been invoked. It's not in the memory yet, right? It is starting, but it has not acquired any memory yet. That state of an activity, when it doesn't exist in the memory, is called a starting state. Well, from a starting state, an activity can only go to the running state. Now, what is a running state? A running state is one when the activity is currently interacting with the user. Simple way to understand it is that if I'm doing something on my Facebook wall page, wall activity, that means I'm currently using it. I'm currently interacting with it, right? It is on focus on the screen. That state of an activity, when it is currently on the screen and interacting with the user, is called the running state of that activity. Now, while I was doing something on my Facebook wall page, I could have received an incoming call. What's going to happen? I was doing something on my Facebook, I got an incoming call. What happens? Now, what happens is that you will realize the Facebook goes to the background and the call comes to the front, right? It comes on focus. This is because a call has a higher priority in the device manager. It has to be handled first, right? So the Facebook will go to the background and the call comes to the front, but you will observe the Facebook activity will be still visible behind the call activity, right? That state of an activity, when it is not on focus, that means it's in the background somehow, but it is still visible on the screen, is called the paused state of an activity, right? Now I'll take the same example again. I was doing something on my Facebook wall screen and I suddenly pressed the end key of my phone, or maybe I pressed the back key of my phone a couple of times. What happens? You will observe you will come out of that activity or that application completely to your idle screen or the home screen, what you call it, right? This means that your activity is no more visible to you. But if you go to the task manager, you will realize it is still in the memory, right? So I can eventually make out a statement that the activity is now no more visible to the user, but it is still in the memory, right? That state of an activity, when it is no more visible to the user, but it is still in the memory, is called the stop state of an activity. Now, when you minimize applications, it is the stop state you put them into, right? Now, we are talking about mobile devices, right? We are talking about small processors. We're talking about small memories. We have to optimize memory utilization. If you talk about both of these, the pause state and the stop state, in both of these states, the user is actually not interacting with the activity or the application, not using it at all, right? This means they are just eating up your memory and they're of no use actually, right? Device manager of your Android does not allow that. For any activity that stays for a long time in a pause state or in a stop state, the device manager destroys the process, right? Kills the complete process out of the memory and frees the memory from them. Well, that state of an activity, when it is no longer in the memory, is called the destroyed state of an activity lifecycle. And once the activity is destroyed, you can only start from a starting state again, right? This is same the life cycle it again follow. Now this is the different activity stages of its life cycle. I hope it is clear to everyone. Everybody is clear with all these states. What are these individually? Everybody is clear with it. Rana is clear, Namender, Saish is also clear, Sanchit is clear, right? I hope everybody is clear with this. In case you have any questions, please post them on the chat window. I'll be more than glad to answer them. Now we've talked about activities and we have talked about the activity life cycle. Let us move ahead to the next building block, which is called an intent, right? Now when we know we've got different activities, we know that we've got different activities in our application, and from one activity we go to another activity, right? What tells an activity where to go next? You touch the screen, you do something, that's okay. But at the application level, what tells an activity where to go next? What represents your action is called an intent. The description of what you want to do or what you want to be done on any activity is called an intent. I'll give you some examples. You want to view a photo. You want to call a friend. You want to play a video. View, call and play are actually the verbs and are actually describing what you want to do. These are called intents. To understand it in a very simple way, let us see this example, right? This is my photo gallery activity in the Facebook application, right? Now you must be wondering why I am talking so much about Facebook. I'm taking Facebook as a referral example just to make sure everybody understands it very quickly and easily, because most of us have used the Facebook and are using the Facebook regularly, right? So I assume everybody knows about Facebook, so it could be very easy to relate. That is why we are talking a lot about Facebook. Now, this is my Facebook photo gallery activity and I have different pictures over here, right? If I click on this picture over here, what happens? As soon as I click on this picture, a new screen will appear, right? I will be taken to a new screen wherein I'll see this picture in an enlarged form, right? That means I fired a view photo intent. I told this activity to switch over to another activity wherein I can see this image in an enlarged form. This was the description of my action, the view photo intent, what you call it, right? So if you want to switch between activities, if you want to start one activity from another, you've got to use an intent on that, right? This is the role of intent for any Android application. Is it clear to everybody? The role of intent in Android applications? Is it clear to everyone? Alright, that's great. That's great. A lot of yeses coming in is a relief. Anyways, let's move ahead and let us talk about the next building block, right? The next building block is called a service. What is a service? Well, most of you would have used a music player, right? Everybody uses a music player and you must have observed that the music player runs in the background. You actually don't need to keep it on screen, on focus to play songs. You can do whatever task you want to do in your mobile, but still the music player will keep on running in the background, right? Sometimes you initiate a network download, right? The download goes on in the background. You never see it coming up, right? It never interferes with your work, what you're doing. It just goes on in the background. We were talking a lot about Facebook. Somebody sends you a friend request or you're on your wall, you will observe the wall gets refreshed by itself. You don't do anything, still it gets refreshed after a particular interval of times, right? It is not magic that happens and that allows all of this to happen. It's just that something which is not visible to you is, doing all this. These are the background jobs. These background jobs are called services. The faceless components that run in the background are called services. Now every service also has a life cycle of its own. When you talk about a service life cycle, it has only 3 stages. Number 1, the starting state. Number 2, the running state. And number 3, the destroyed state. Now, there are no intermediate states between the running state and the destroyed state as there were in the activity. There is no pause state, there is no stop state. Now the question is, can anybody tell me why there is no paused or a stop state in a service life cycle? Can anybody send in a guess, since you have understood the life cycle of an activity and you've also understood what a service is? Can anybody tell me why there is no paused or a stop state in a service life cycle? Chindia is saying it is a background job. Well, Shash is also saying it is a background job. Alright, let's try to figure out. Right? Let's try to figure out why it is so. Talking about the pause state, right? Talking about the pause state, I told you an activity goes to the pause state when it goes to the background but it is still visible to the user, right? If you talk about a service, it is never visible to the user. There is no user interaction. There is no user interference. Number 1, this is why there is no pause state. Let's talk about the stop state. A stop state was when the activity was not visible to the user, but it was still in the memory. If you closely observe, this is exactly the scenario what is the running state for a service, isn't it? It's not visible to the user, but it is still running in the memory, right? This is why there are no pause state or a stop state in a service lifecycle. Remember, whenever talk about service, remember service is never initiated by the user, no user interaction, no user interference. They have a limited life cycle. They start, they do what they were designed to do, and they destroy themselves, right? Is this clear to everyone why there is no pause or a stop state in the service life cycle? No, I haven't heard from Hiren, I haven't heard from Sona Mishra, Vivek, Sanchit, everyone. Is this clear to all of you? That's great. That's great. Now I told you some examples. I told you the various feeds by your friends that gets refreshed, the notification about the friend request that you get. Now these are all examples of services in the Facebook application, as we were talking a lot about Facebook. Let's move ahead and let's talk about the next building block, right? These are called the content providers. Now, before explaining what a content provider is, I want to explain a scenario. I want to discuss a scenario with all of you, right? I have an Android device. I click a picture, right? I click a picture on my Android device, and now I want to upload it using my Facebook application. It's very simple, isn't it? I will go to my Facebook application. I will click on upload photo. I will select this picture from my gallery and I'll select upload. It will be uploaded, as simple as that, right? Now, I might also want to upload the same picture using Twitter. I might also want to upload the same picture using Instagram. I might also want to use the same picture as a contact picture to some of my contacts in the address book, isn't it? Now, the statement comes out to be multiple applications can use a single resource from your database, isn't it? Multiple applications can use a single resource from your database. Does everybody agree to me on this? Right? Everybody agrees to me? Okay, now in Android, multitasking of applications is also allowed, isn't it? So I can refactor my statement and I can say multiple applications can use a specific resource from my database simultaneously, isn't it? At the same time. Do you all agree with me on this as well? Wouldn't you agree, right? That's great. Now let us try to figure out what is a content provider. Since we have understood this scenario, let's see this pictorial description over here. These are my applications, right? And this is my database. What is my database? When you talk about Android, we're using the SQLite database. We're using a very light version of database, which is there in the form of your internal phone memory or your external memory card, right? Now, these applications, which are multiple, might simultaneously hit my database with their queries, with their different queries, be it insert query, be it an update query, whatever query it could be. I'm using a light version of a database, right? My database will give up. It will not be able to queue up. It will not be able to prioritize requests because my data is always in the inconsistent form. Multiple applications are trying to access it at the same time. And it is a light database. It will go corrupt, wouldn't it? Very easily it will go corrupt. This is a big problem, right? Now, this is where the content provider comes to my rescue. The content provider sits between the application and the databases, right? Now, whenever these applications need any data from the database, they will request it from the content provider. The content provider will in return fetch that data from the database, and give it back to these applications. So what I've done two things. I have not allowed these applications to directly interact with my database, number one. Number two, there is only one thing, which is the content provider that always interacts with the database. So my data is always in the consistent stage. It can always provide uniform APIs for querying, deleting, updating, inserting any kind of requests, right? This is the role of a content provider in any Android application. Is everybody clear with this, or do we have a doubt? Is everybody clear with it? That's great. So I have a confirmation from a lot of people. Okay, I mean, I want to ask all of you a simple question just to ensure that you're understanding what I'm teaching, right? Sanchit has asked me, why can't application directly contact with database? Well, I told you, Sanchit, if you allow one application, you'll have to allow all of them, and all of them at the same time will start hitting your database to access it, and your database will go inconsistent. This is why you cannot allow to do this. You cannot afford to do it, right? Your database will never be consistent. It will never be able to provide uniform APIs. All right? All right. So great. I have a simple question for all of you. Can you tell me what are intents used for? Starting one activity from another, doing some task in the background, or providing access to the system database? Just select the desired answer on the screen itself. In the meanwhile, John has asked me a question. So content provider is the pal of the app. Well, it is, John. Right. So, can everybody vote in for the correct answer quickly? I'm talking about intents, right? Remember, I'm talking about intents. Can we have the polls quickly? Can everybody vote in quickly? Okay, I'm waiting for the answer from everybody. Can everybody quickly vote in? I hope all of you should be aware of it by now. We just discussed intents. Alright, I've got 97% of the people who have voted for starting one activity from another, 2% have voted for doing some task in the background, and only 1% votes providing access to the system database. Well, the correct answer is starting one activity from another. I told you it is the intent that carries the description of your action. You want to start one activity from another, you've got to fire an intent on that, right? Is anybody still confused over it? Or is it clear to everyone now? I'm sure you understood it well, just that you got confused. Is everybody now clear with this, the role of intent? This is why I've kept this poll, so help you remind. Is everybody clear about the role of an intent now? Right? Okay, that's great. I have a lot of yeses coming in, so that's a relief. Let us talk about our next building block. Now the next building block is called a broadcast receiver. Now what's a broadcast receiver? Most of you would have seen that low battery pop-up in your phone, right? The low battery pop-up appears and most of the applications stop working. The low battery pop-up appears, you can't make a call, right? You can't play music, you can't play a video, you can't use the camera, isn't it? Right. Now the point is, low battery. Battery is a hardware. Low battery is an hardware event, isn't it? It is a hardware event, the low battery. Now, your application is sitting right on the top of the application layer, right? Vivek, I did not get your question. Why don't we use calling as an app? Well, I did not get your question. Anyways, so I was talking about the low battery. Vivek, please come up with your question again. I was talking about the low broadcast receiver. I told you this low battery is a hardware event and it happens on the kernel layer in the lowest layer of the Android stack, which is the hardware layer. When you talk about the application, it is sitting on the right or the top of the application layer. How does an application come to know about these system events that happen on the different layers of the stack? Right. How does your application come to know about it? It is the job of a broadcast receiver, right? Broadcast receiver is a dormant observer. That means its role is just to sit and observe. And observe what? Whenever you talk about a broadcast receiver, the broadcast receiver registers for these different intents to occur on the Android system and observes them, right? Whenever any Android system event occurs, like the low battery or the no network, right, it broadcasts a message. Now it is the role of a broadcast receiver to receive these system generated messages, right? The broadcast receiver receives these messages, and eventually your application comes to know about all of these low battery and the new Facebook friend request while the app is in the idle mode. So all of these system events are observed by the broadcast receiver, and this is what lets the application know about it. Is everybody clear about the broadcast receiver, the role of a broadcast receiver in an Android app? Everybody is clear with this? John wants me to repeat it. And Vivek says, calling to someone we use application free of cost. Well, calling is done through the call application, Vivek. So it is also an application, no doubt. Call is also an application. Your music player is an application. Your phone book is an application, right? So these are all applications that have been made, right? So anyways, I think a couple of people want me to repeat a broadcast receiver, and mostly John. Well, John, I'll give you a simple example of a broadcast receiver, right? Let's try to understand the real life implementation. For example, John, I ask you to sit down on a gate and let me know whenever Vivek enters that gate, right? So I'll come back, isn't it? I'll come back, you will sit on that gate, and is this scenario simply understood? I have asked you to simply sit on a gate and let me know whenever Vivek enters the gate. Is it simple? Yes. Now assume that Vivek just entered and you came back to me running and told me, sir, you had asked me to observe Vivek and he has just entered, and you go back. Is this also simple? Right? Well, John, you are the broadcast receiver. Vivek is the system event and I am the application. Now tell me, is it clear to you, the broadcast receiver? That's great. I think it's clear to everybody now. The broadcast receiver is clear to everybody now. That's great. Okay. I have another simple question for all of you. Let's make sure that we have understood everything that we have discussed today in this class. An Android service does not have the following stages in their life cycle. Choose one amongst running, paused, or destroyed. Now, can everybody quickly vote in? Let's see how much you remember out of what you've been taught. Everyone, can we have the votes quickly? And remember, I'm talking about a service. And I'm talking about does not have. You got to read the question very quick, very well. So can we have the votes from everyone quickly? As of now, the polling results as of now, I have 99% of the votes have gone to the pause state and 1% vote have gone to the destroyed state. So I'm actually wondering what is wrong with the 1% audience, and now 1% has also gone to the running state. So 98% paused, 1% running, and 1% destroyed. Well, the correct answer is the pause state. Guys, I told you a service never has a pause state, right? Because it is always in the background. It is never visible. It has 3 stages: starting state, running state, and a destroyed state, right? Now, is this clear with everybody in the class? For the rest of the 2% people who went down for running and destroyed, is it clear to all of you? I'm more worried about the 2% people here in the class. Okay, that's great. I'm assuming you've understood it, right? Now, let's try to recapture what we have talked about up till now. We have talked about the main building blocks, and let's name them one by one. We have talked about the activities, which were the screens. We have talked about the intents, which were the action taken on activities. We've talked about the services that were the background jobs. We've also talked about the content providers that would help us fetch data for applications. And we've also talked about the broadcast receivers, which are the dormant observers. Is everybody clear with all of these, or do you have any questions or any doubts? Is everybody clear with these, all of these? I want a confirmation from all of you. Quickly, everyone. Can everybody very quickly confirm me that you're clear with all of these? All right, that is great. So let's go back time by 15-20 minutes and let's see these questions again. Now tell me, do you know the answers to all these questions? Now tell me, do you know the answers to all these questions? Well, in the meanwhile, Sona has asked me, I'm confused about content providers. Well, Sona, I told you in a very simple language. In the meanwhile, everybody please concentrate on the questions and let me know if you don't have the answer for any one of these. Well, Sona, as I was telling you, content provider is actually an intermediate figure between applications and databases. We cannot allow applications to, directly interact with the database because multiple applications will keep your data inconsistent, will keep it busy at the moment, and it will not be able to provide uniform APIs for querying and all that stuff, right? So this is why the content provider sits between the application and the databases, right? So it's like you and me, while we are talking to each other, we have this webinar as a medium, we have this chat as a medium, right? I cannot allow everybody to speak in this class, because if all of you will speak, how will I be able to teach you, and how will I be able to focus on your questions? So there is a medium which is a chat, isn't it? So you can post it on chat and one by one I can read it. Similarly, one by one your data takes care of the queries that are sent by the application. I hope, Sona, it is clear to you now. Okay, most of the people have the answers to all the questions. Priyadarshini says, I don't have the answer to the fifth question. Well, how do multiple applications access shared resources? Well, Priyadarshini, how about content provider, right? Didn't we discuss that multiple applications want to use shared resources from the database, right? Well, Ashik Katie is confused about the second. Well, haven't we discussed about starting, running, paused, stopped, destroyed? Right? So does everybody have the answers to all the questions? Yes, Priyadarshini, they can access. There is a difference between do they access or can they access. The answer to can they access is yes, they can access it simultaneously, but do they access depends, right? Now that is great if everybody has answered all these questions correctly as of now. Now as we had discussed, I have only changed the smiley in this slide. Rightly so, I believed everybody would be knowing the answers to all these questions. I want to know from all of you, what is your reason for learning Android? Right? What is your reason for learning Android? Please answer the question very quickly and select the desired answer. Ashik, I'll get back to your question. Just give me a minute. So what is your reason of learning Android? I mean, is it you want to complete your BTech MCA project? You want to switch over to Android development? Are you seeking a career as a fresher in Android? Do you want to grab the freelancing opportunities? Or is it just that you love Android so you want to learn it for fun? Can I have the answers from everyone very quickly? In the meanwhile, Ashik has asked me, is knowledge in Java necessary to learn Android? Well, it is not necessary to learn Android. Well, definitely to make Android applications, you need to know Java. So don't worry about that. I'll just come back to it also. So can everybody very quickly answer this question? Everyone. Now, as far as the distribution of votes I can see, all these votes are distributed very evenly. Almost people have voted for all the things, all the options, and these are all equal distributions. This is where Android becomes special, right? For so many people. solving so many purposes, having to solve so many purposes within itself is a big thing. Now, we all are here to discuss, we were all here through the demo class from the Android development program, which is powered by Edureka, aren't we? Right? Let us see what this program is all about. Let us see if this is actually the program that solves our purpose. Let us see, should we join it or shouldn't we? Let us see, does this help or not, right? Let's talk about the Android development program that is powered by Edureka. Well, as you can see on the screen, we have divided the complete Android subject into 6 sub-modules, right? Ashik, to answer your question, we are also covering Java in this program. That means the first division is Java Essentials, then we go on to the basics of Android, the basic Android, then we move on to the advanced Android concepts like web services, animations, right? And moving on to the 6th module, we have covered the databases and the other advanced topics, right? So starting from whatever you need to develop an Android application, it's here in this course. Well, yes, Vivek, I'll come back to your answer as well. Now, how do we do it? Let's see, how do we complete this course and what are the course highlights, right? Now in this course, first of all, let me tell all of you, this course has been specially designed to meet the needs of professionals and students, right? Ashik, I'll get back to your answer as well. Just give me a minute. Now, for this course, you will be having 2 to 3 hours online classes on weekends. Now these online classes are live instructor-led classes. Similarly to this class, this is also a live instructor-led class, but just that this is a demo class and it is of a small duration of 1 hour, right? And not that focused towards your subject, right? So you will be having 2 to 3 hours online classes on weekends wherein all these sub-modules will be covered individually, right? Now, you're given a lifetime access to the learning management system. The learning management system is a student portal wherein all your study material is kept. I will take you through a journey of that as well in just a while from now. For now, let us remember that we've got the lifetime access to a learning management system. Now, I have a simple question in my mind. If I have classes on weekends, what do I do on weekdays, right? I'll answer this with a very simple scenario. I studied Java on a Sunday. In a fine Monday morning, I wanted to revise it, right? Now, I have a doubt. I did not understand polymorphism and inheritance, or maybe anything else, 5 more things. Should I wait for the next weekend to meet my instructor and, get support from him and clear my doubts and they'll move ahead? No. You've got 24/7 support over Skype, email and phone. That means you've got a problem on Monday morning, get a support session on Monday morning. Get a support session at a time which is convenient to you. Now this is the beauty of this program. Throughout the week, you decide the time of your support class, isn't it? You're free at 6, you're working professional, you have a 9 to 6 duty. Take a class at 7, take a class at 8. You have a night shift, take a class in the afternoon. You decide the time of the class as per your own convenience. This is something you'll never get anywhere else. Now apart from this, these sessions are endless, limitless. That means you can have as many number of support classes as you want to, and it's available 24/7. Now, the biggest problem with students at the moment, right? Yes, Naminder has asked me a question. Can we set up a support session even after this course is finished? Yes, Naminder, in case of a requirement, you can do that. Don't worry. You always enter Edureka. You never exit Edureka. Don't worry about that. The support is available to you post your course as well. Anyways, so the biggest problem with the students is that, yes, I understood everything in the class, but I came home and I forgot what was the example told by my instructor, right? Or maybe I'm busy this Sunday, I could not attend a class. Well, you never miss a class and you never miss a word of that class, because all your classes, including this class, are being recorded, right? All your classes are being recorded and the recorded sessions are shared the same day with all of you, right? That means you have a class right there in your email inbox. Attend it as many number of times as you want to. Never forget what was talked about in the class. Never forget what was the answer to your query, and never ever miss a class. Not just this, you can also request for a reclass to any of these classes in case you missed or you have attended it. That means the 6 weeks is the recommended time of this program. However, you have the freedom to extend the time of the program. You can attend these classes as many number of times as you want to, right? If you're not through with Java or through with animations in 1 week, these two topics, talk about them, take a class again the next week as well, right? So you never miss a class. And the second point, there is no fixed duration. It's just a recommended duration. Now, the bigger picture, you will not just learn, you will implement as well. You will not just learn, you will implement as well. As a project to this program, you will make your own live Android application under the guidance of your instructor and with the help of the support team. There's a big team here to support you. You will make your own live Android application and you get a chance to publish your application on the Google Play Store as well. Now, once you submit your project, complete your project, you get 24/7 support for your project as well. Once you submit your project, after a small online review of exam of your project, you are given a globally accepted verified skill certificate of being a skilled certified Android application developer, right? Now this certificate is globally valued, right? Now I'll take you through some featured applications of this month made by our students, right? The PNR status inquiry app made by Prashant Jain, right? These are all the rewarded applications of this month. The Blackjack app made by Hisham, the Reebok shopping portal app made by Anubhav Gupta. More than tens of thousands of downloads already, and they've already started monetizing it, right? This is how it goes when you make something, with such support and such guidance. Now, I was also talking about your learning management system. Let's have a look at it. This is your learning management system, all your learning material, right from the starting, how to install Android in your system. It's right here, right? Your installation guides, your learning video tutorials, your ebooks, your quizzes, assignments, everything, the project library, everything right here at one place. You need not to get into any other study material because everything which is exclusive for you is right here. Not just this, you are also given access to a discussion forum. Now, the best part, not only you can post in your questions over here and seek answers from the support team, you can also see what others are talking about. What are they learning? What are their observations? What are their queries? What are the solutions to their queries, right? Amazing interactive place is this discussion forum that you're given access to, right? So you can see what others are talking about. You can download their applications. You see people have posted their links for the applications that they've made. They interact with the other batchmates. So everything is great about this discussion forum. Now, I want all of you to ask me in case you have any questions regarding this program.